start a little bit with like where you are with customizing. I think with every teacher, there's kind of this evolution of material that you gradually keep adding to and changing and customizing. What are you currently working with or struggling with in your curriculum?
In my first year of teaching customized learning, our assignments all had one chunk. In the past year, we've evolved our English curriculum because English is so much different than all other subjects. It's not learning a new math theorem or a new equation. It's, again, year after year, we're studying central idea or the same writing strategy, but you take it to another level of depth or another level of rigor. So in the past year, our English curriculum has expanded. Within one assignment, we have 3 steps. The first mostly covers the foundational level. The second, it's more so application, and then the third, it's higher level thinking. So within one assignment, we hope to differentiate at 3 levels. So our 100 level learners just complete through our step 1. The general population of students go through step 2, and then the kids striving for the advanced GPA bump, they go for a little more rigor, a little more depth, and complete through step 3. So that in the past year has been how we are evolving. Then we want to further develop in our final affirmations where we have the students demonstrate their mastery. We want to further develop to give them more options of choice there because some kids are really good with their writing. Maybe they want to write a paper to show it. Maybe they want to incorporate video or technology to demonstrate their mastery of the certain concept. So that's how it's evolved in the past, most recently.
I heard a lot of we, so is this a group project?
It's definitely a group effort. We've been fortunate that our whole customized department of English teachers, we spend a lot of time together in the summer, and we've been able to kind of co-create, share ideas that way. And how we have it right now is we have an advanced teacher teaching the same material as the general English teacher. So we've been able to really work together. Not one person can just take all the credit for it. It's been a lot of co-designing. So that's been awesome for us.
So your advanced classes, students assign themselves ahead of time to an advanced class, or is it something they kind of choose?
It's both strongly based off teacher referral or what they've been in the past. It's ultimately up to them, but with a lot of teacher guidance.
Okay. When you look at the curriculum and the things that you're doing right now, what's the struggle? What's hard?
I would say what gets us the most is student incentive and student motivation, planning out the pacing wise. Some kids, it does take a little bit more time, but to find alternate strategies, I would say, the toughest problem is just trying to wrap our mind around the pacing. And some kids move at a slower pace, but we don't want them to fall in a deep hole and be stuck there. So it's finding ways to accommodate that has been a struggle for us. And granted, that's only a few. We take pride in the ones that are doing well and moving on, but the few that don't always stick out.
Sure. You hear a lot about teacher pace and customized, but how do you determine teacher pace for a student? How do you decide where should you be?
I would say we go by kind of the general student, an average pace that we think what they can accomplish on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, monthly basis, semester basis. And so we put a recommended pace calendar for them on, and then of course there's some that takes a little bit more time. Fortunately, with our flexible schedule, we can schedule extra time together. If someone is moving at a slower pace, more time one-on-one with the teacher is always beneficial. And then the ones that grasp the concept, put more time in outside of class, definitely move at an accelerated pace.
I think sometimes there's a misperception that customized is just for the advanced kids. But do you see customized being useful for kids other than the top kids?
Absolutely, especially in the choice and the one-on-one that we're able to have, because I'd say that's the biggest difference for me in adjusting from a traditional classroom to a customized classroom. It's not lecture. I don't lecture. If anything, I'm facilitating mini lessons or guiding one student, a group of students, and it's me moving about the room. So it has been so beneficial for not just the advanced kids, for the kids that need one-on-one or they need just a different explanation. I'm right there to be able to do that. So it's been so beneficial for those kids.
How do you determine mastery? First of all, what is it you're looking for mastery? In a more traditional setting, it's often a chapter or a unit.
Mm-hmm.
But in a customized environment, it's more flexible units, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of decide what's our chunk we're going to measure, and then how do you determine mastery?
I would say that we have made our teachers so much more accountable. We always start with the standards, and then from there we, as an English department, broke up the standards into measurement topics, which could be similar to a unit. So we put certain standards, which we call learning targets, with those measurement topics, and every assignment that we do leads up to mastery of those learning targets. So then in their final affirmations where they demonstrate the mastery, we've again driven those, whether it's a project, a test, some form of assessment, to totally grasp the learning targets. So it's their demonstration of mastery of those targets.
With your kids, since they're working on a mastery base as opposed to an age group moving forward, do you still, most of the time it's similar age kids working together, or do you find that there's a lot of variety in ages of kids working?
Well, specifically how our classes are now, it's their ages together. We have all the sophomores together, at least in English anyway. In a math or social science class, it might be a little different. In English, we have all of them together. Mm-hmm. So it's by age, okay. For us anyway.
How do you manage student collaboration? I mean, do students kind of get to choose when they want to work with others, or is it sometimes teacher-directed? How does that work with collaboration?
I would say it's a combination of both. We try to encourage collaboration within our assignments. However, because of the individual pacing, sometimes that can be hard to match up. Fortunately, in English, we've kind of gone around that. We did book club, which is very similar to Lit Circles. So we'll give the kids the choice to plan out when they want their discussions, so they can still work on reading at their own pace, the assignments at their own pace, but they chose when to have their discussions. So we try to make that student driven. I would say it's more so for the whole teacher directed based on our plan of pacing. If we have a couple kids that can match up their pacing and incorporate collaboration, that is one of the areas that we are trying to promote more, because it's hard though with individual pacing, but we're trying on that.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that as a teacher trying to manage kids in all different places gets overwhelming, or how do you manage it?
It's crazy, but I have 55 students, and I could tell you what every student is working on. And I think that's because of the one-on-one aspect. I don't ever just stand up in front and lecture the whole class, but instead I'm making those one-on-one connections, those personal relationships. So you'd be amazed, but you know where each of your students are and their capabilities, maybe their weaknesses, and how to push and challenge each one.
Sometimes you hear misperception that, well, the teachers don't teach anymore. How would you explain to someone that what you're doing is teaching as well?
I'd say the definition of teaching has evolved over time. Lecture is one form of teaching. Individual facilitating, I'd say that's another form of teaching. Guidance, directing versus me telling you what to do. Now I'm encouraging you to find your pathway and to explore on your own. So,
do you find that it's difficult to bring student interest into their work, or do you have avenues of how to gauge a student's interest and then help them get there? How do you do that?
I would say in English, maybe it's a little easier based on what the student chooses to read can be triggered to their interest. We try to leave that open. What they choose to write about, we'll put some guidelines there, but for the most part, we try to make it of your choice. We try to focus on the relevance. So English is probably more of a better avenue for student interest than maybe some of the other subjects would be.
In English, do you try to get a balance of technical writing versus fictional writing, or how do you approach the whole idea of literature-based versus technical writing?
We've mapped it out so their freshman year they focus on narrative and research writing. Sophomore year it's persuasive and informative, and so forth. So we've mapped that out beforehand, so throughout their high school career they're getting a variety of writing, they're exposed to that.
When you look at where you're customizing right now, and as you keep getting deeper and deeper into how you approach it, are there barriers that you run into that you can't control, that you wish you could get out of the way so you could really take customizing to the next level?
Yes. One of the elements that I would say we are working on is just what to do with students that need a little extra push, they aren't as self-motivated. So trying to find other options for those kids, it's a challenge because you hate to see them left in the dust, and time after time, then they build themselves in a hole and they feel stuck and trapped. So we as teachers are trying to, find other options, other pathways to still get them to an endpoint. One of the other things is just time. We try to customize, but there are still deadlines. There's still a school year, and there's still so much time, and that perception sometimes is hard as well. Yeah.
How do you handle the assessment? What's involved in assessing students in a customized level? How is it different, and how do you approach that?
Well, the assessment is purely mastery. So all of our assignments leading up to the final affirmations, they're equally important because they are the foundational level and skill development level. So we want those to be mastered along the way. However, we only assign a mastery grade of a 1, 2, or 3, 3 being the highest level of mastery, to our final affirmations. So it's been kind of a balance between these are equally as important. We want you to do these assignments leading up so you are learning the skills, but currently what we do is assign the mastery grade to the final affirmations. And one of the areas we'd like to give more focus to, especially in our planning over the summer to prepare for next school year, would be to providing more options to those final affirmations.
So those final affirmations, do they follow more of the traditional percentage kinds of things, or are there performance tasks involved? What is the final affirmation?
It can vary. It varies department to department. It varies class to class. It could be in my composition classes, most of the time it's in some sort of essay. In our lit classes, it could be a project over the book that you've read. It could be some sort of visual, just a way for the students to demonstrate their mastery. Breakfast is coming out.
Tell me a little bit about your technology and how you use it from a teacher standpoint. You're one-to-one here.
Mm-hmm.
how do you use it personally for a teacher managing things, and then let's talk a little bit about how you use it with students.
If we lost our technology, we're in trouble. Being a one-to-one school, we're so fortunate that our learning management system, Schoology, has everything for us. We have all of our curriculum on there. We do our grading there. We're able to track student progress. And then with that, we try to use that to find videos to incorporate into our assignments, to have the kids use that in some way. There's so many endless options, so they can use that as a tool to show their learning as well. But the days that we have internet issues, it's kind of a tough day for us.
Do you use a lot of collaborative tools like Google Docs or things like that, or what are your primary tools that you
We do use Google Doc. We're trying to incorporate different websites for use of grammatical elements to practice, your parallel structure, your phrases and clauses. Those we're trying to use too, because it saves our time as teachers to, grade a grammar worksheet. Well, some of the websites we've located provide immediate feedback, and that way they can do the practice there, and we can help them with the revisions and edits in their actual essay versus all of that. Yeah.
I have to pay attention to time, so Ryan, do you go? Okay. Was there anything I should have asked you that you wanted to say about customizing?
Well, the main thing I wanted to touch on was just how different the customized setting is versus the traditional setting, and how different teaching looks. So I think we kind of touched on that.
From your standpoint, what's the most important aspect of why people should customize?
The beauty of customizing is, I would say, the one-on-one interaction with the kids, and the ability for them to demonstrate their mastery in different ways and what suits that student. Especially in some classes, they are allowed to make corrections. It's not, oh, no, I didn't stay up and cram for my exam. I've got to take a D and move on. Instead, well, okay, you weren't prepared, so you can learn that lesson, first of all, that preparedness. And then we want you to actually learn the material. And if you don't learn it, well, let's go back and figure out what we have to do differently to get you to that point. One-on-one with the teacher, then you get that learning, you find the gaps that were missed, and the student can reach their potential with the teacher guidance.